I don't know how else to interpret this Keith Thurman, Errol Spence situation other than to say it looks as though Keith Thurman is blatantly ducking Errol Spence. Is it because he fears that he could lose to Errol Spence? Is it because behind the scenes his people want to build up the fight to where it's bigger and therefore worth taking the risk? Is it even Al Heyman that wants to delay that fight until it's built up into something bigger? Who knows? But certainly on the surface, it seems like Spence is keen on the fight happening ASAP and Keith Thurman isn't. That's how it seems at the moment, judging by things that Keith Thurman has been saying in recent weeks. I've always felt that Errol Spence has a good chance. I've felt this for a long time. And you know, if you've been following my channel for any length of time, that I've been, well, I don't want to say I've been on the Errol Spence bandwagon because I don't jump on bandwagons, but I've been a believer in Errol Spence. I've been a believer in the truth from very early on in Errol Spence's career when he was just turning professional, really, as a prospect. I've been a believer in him since then. And over the past, let's say 2 years, I've started to believe that this guy could well be the best welterweight in the world. I picked him to beat Kell Brook. I was very firm about that. I was very sure that he would beat Kell Brook. And I'm also picking him to beat Keith Thurman if that fight gets made. Keith Thurman is a very good fighter. He's more explosive than Errol Spence. Probably hits harder than Errol Spence in terms of punch for punch. But styles make fights. And Errol Spence is on the ascendancy. He is one of the hungriest fighters in the game. He's one of the hungriest world champions in the game. He is very hungry. You don't see Errol Spence in between fights, blowing up in weight, hitting the nightclubs. No, Errol Spence is actually a family man. Even though he's a relatively young guy, he's a family man. He don't really go out. He spends time at home with his woman and his kids. And then he goes to the gym and he trains pretty much all year round. He's not in full training camp all year round, but he stays in shape all year round. Very, very hungry guy, very determined. And I just think he's, at this point, more determined than a Keith Thurman. I think Keith Thurman is kind of like a David Haye. I think he enjoys the fighting, but the training, I'm sure he enjoys it to a certain extent. But I don't think he's as diligent a trainer as somebody like an Errol Spence. I don't think he's as hungry as Errol Spence. Again, it's not to say Keith Thurman's not a diligent trainer. He is. He's got fantastic stamina. You just look at him in a lot of his recent fights against Sean Porter, against Danny Garcia. Tremendous stamina. So I'm not questioning his fitness, but I'm more talking about his mentality. Especially after unifying. He's got the, what is it, the WBA and WBC? Spencer's got the IBF, Jeff Horner's got the WBO. I'm not sure Keith Thurman has the eye of the tiger anymore. And from a stylistic point of view, Keith Thurman has always been vulnerable to body shots, particularly from a southpaw. We saw what happened when he fought Louis Collazo. He nearly got folded in half like a deck chair by Louis Collazo. Well, he did get folded in half like a deck chair by Louis Collazo, but he managed to unfold himself and survive that crisis. He was also hurt to the body a couple of times against Sean Porter. His body is suspect for whatever reason. And Errol Spence is the best body puncher in the game right now. I know some people are going to mention other guys out there like Canelo and whatever. Canelo is certainly a more explosive fighter than Errol Spence. But in terms of consistently punching to the body all the way through a fight, for me, Errol Spence is the best body puncher in the game right now. He just will not leave your ribcage alone. He just won't. Ask Kell Brook. He put the work in downstairs early on in that Kell Brook fight, and it paid off in the second half of the fight. And the first half of the fight, especially the early rounds, Errol Spence wasn't doing that great in terms of headshots anyway. Kell Brook was landing some nice shots on Errol Spence in the first few rounds. But Spence kept on targeting that body over and over again. Any opportunity he got, he was digging in shots to the body. Even if they weren't particularly clean shots, he was just making sure that he got off punches to the body and made that investment. He's very effective downstairs. I think he will get to Keith Thurman with his pressure. I think he will get to him with his body shots. I don't know whether he would stop Keith Thurman. Thurman is tough. He might not be iron-jawed. We know he's susceptible to body shots. But he's got good legs. He's got great fitness. And he's been the distance with, you know, Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, Robert Guerrero, a bunch of other guys. Errol Spence might hit harder than all those guys, but I don't think Errol Spence is going to hit Keith Thurman with anything that's going to shock him. Not with a headshot anyway. I mean, I'm sure Thurman's been in there with guys who hit as hard as Errol Spence before. It's just Spence's relentlessness, his style, his consistency, his strategy. That's why I'll be picking Errol Spence if they fight. Going back to what I said at the start of the video though, maybe it's not to do with Keith Thurman necessarily being afraid of Spence as such or afraid of losing to Spence. I don't believe Thurman's afraid of Spence at all. I'm sure he'd spar him tomorrow, but he may be afraid of losing to him because of the implications of that, because of the fallout from that in terms of not being able to make as much money, losing his belts. Even from a ego perspective, no longer being champion. He might be afraid of losing all that. But then again, there's something I hadn't considered. Maybe these injuries that Keith Thurman has picked up over the past couple of years, and he's just had surgery, I believe. Maybe he's not 100% about how well those injuries have healed and recovered. So maybe he wants to test the waters in 2018 against some easier opposition before he steps in there with Errol Spence. Because they're talking about, I mean, Errol Spence believes that this Keith Thurman fight might not happen until 2019. This is what Spence is saying. And obviously he's an Al Heyman fighter. He's fairly in the loop, I would have to imagine, in terms of what's going on with the Thurman side. Yeah, and he's thinking it's not going to happen until 2019. So why is that? Why is Thurman looking to defer this fight? Again, it could be them injuries. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Maybe you've come across some information that I'm not privy to. Maybe you can give me an explanation as to why Keith Thurman seems to be not too keen on stepping in the ring with Errol Spence anytime soon. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below. Also, if and when the fight does happen, who will you be picking and by what method? All right, let me know, people. It's happening. I'm out.